going to talk about NCAA. So if you have any students who are interested in playing college sports, this is going to be an introductory presentation. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and let's hope technology works the way it should. And we're going to get going. I'm going to start with the slideshow, if we can get it to do what it should. Okay. All right. So like Gisela said, I'm Natalie Mack again. I'm passionate about homeschooling, and I'm really also very passionate about helping our homeschooled high schoolers and parents realize that you do not need to pivot back to public school just because you have an athlete who wants to play in college. So that's the message for today. How do you do that? We're going to talk a little bit about the process. There's probably, you may still have questions afterwards. So I do have a QR code at the end. If you need additional help, you can reach out. But this is intro, but I think it will give you a good platform to get started, okay? So NCAA eligibility for homeschooled athletes. This is my dear family. Let me go ahead and move my toolbar a little bit out of the way for me. So this is my dear family. Gisela mentioned 34 years of military service. So obviously it wasn't me. I could never put on the military boots and serve. But my dear husband was a Navy chaplain. And so we've moved all over the world. As you can count, we have the 5 kids. And our youngest here is 12th grade. So he is trying to figure out the next step. I mean, we got some options that he's definitely looking at in terms of colleges, but he's the baby of 5. And our oldest here in the blue is 32, just got married the end of June. And she also, all of them have been homeschooled, every last one of them. And I'm starting my clock just so I can keep track. And then our youngest one is the one whose story has pretty much got me here to be able to speak on NCAA because she was the athlete. They have all played sports, but she's the one who knew at age 7, I want to play Division I. And I laugh when I think about it. I'm like, what did a 7-year-old know about Division I? Well, she knew something enough to continue to pursue it throughout her journey and then on to high school, and obviously she played in college. So the rest of the kids have their own journey, and I think that's what Gisela posted is my TEDx. That's where I talk about our journey. And I always tell families, our journey was ours. Your journey is going to be equally fantastic, and it's going to be the one that your family should be on. It's going to fit your family, right? So I just share my journey as encouragement, inspiration, but not that it's the only path. We all know college is not necessarily the only path after you finish homeschooling, but it is one path, and it is one that a lot of students want to pursue. And there are students who are homeschooled who passionately want to play college soccer. So here we are. So one thing I want to make sure that I say at the beginning, eligibility and admission are totally different. So we're going to be talking about NCAA, which is the Eligibility Center. Okay, they're the ones that govern whether or not your high schooler has completed everything sufficiently academically to be able to survive, do well, be successful at the college level. They aren't accessing, or they're not assessing your students' athletic ability. So having said that, though, some families sometimes think, oh, if we go through the NCAA eligibility process, then our student is admitted to the college. And no, that's not the case. Academic admission is just that. You have to go through the college. So you'll have a student who will become NCAA eligible, but they still must go through all of the college admissions requirements to get a space at that university. Now, I mentioned something often as well called the broken leg theory, or broken leg principle, probably is more accurate. And what does that mean? Not that I'm wishing anyone that's an athlete to have a broken leg. What it actually means is that make sure you talk to your athlete about not necessarily being so excited about any type of potential scholarship opportunity, but make sure that the school that is offering it, that it's a school they would want to be at if they were to get injured and could no longer play the sport that they love. So that's the broken leg. Does it pass the broken leg test? Is this a school that you see yourself at as a scholar, as as a student? The athletics is important because obviously that's what the student wants to do there, but you're there to learn, you're there to be successful, you're there to graduate, ideally in 4 years or whenever you get completed, right? So eligibility and admission are totally two different things. They're two different tracks. You have to pursue both if you have a college athlete, a college-bound athlete. So we're going to talk a little bit briefly about NCAA and NAIA and what's the difference. We'll talk about the eligibility process for NCAA, the homeschool toolkit, academic requirements, lessons that I learned, and then I have my QR code. So the NCAA, as you can see here on the screen, is the National Collegiate Athletic Association. There's another organization called NAIA, which is National Association of Intercollegiate Athletics. They're totally different organizations. You can see here at the bottom of the PowerPoint, NCAA is the eligibility organization. They have an eligibility center. They govern D1, which is Division I or Division II. The NAIA basically, in some kind of way, I want to say governs Division III. It's a different process totally. So if you have a student who wants to play in college, one of the first things you want to help your student begin to look at is at what level do they really want to play? Now, some of that's going to be based on how well they play, right? How good are they? There's a lot of good athletes. So I also caution parents that because you have a good athlete, and we always see our athlete as fantastic and phenomenal, right? So, and that's valuable most of the time, but sometimes we may think, oh, our student is so dynamic, they're going to get picked up and they're going to get offered a scholarship and they're going to be great and they need to go Division I, definitely. Maybe not. I think you need to do some research. And I will tell you a little bit about the differences and why I think you should do some research. Division I, Division II, the goal is yes, academics and graduate, yes, but it really is very focused on the sport. Whatever that sport is that the student gets an opportunity to play in college, that pretty much is the framework that they will be attending that university as. So what does that mean? That means that it governs a lot of their 4 years at college. It is a priority. It is sometimes a little bit of a difficulty balancing and wanting to do other things in college because at the Division I, Division II, a lot is demanded of the athletes. And depending upon the conference that the school is in, the level of play can be even more challenging and competitive. So that's part of what you might want to look at when you're talking about and having a conversation, right? That your student wants to play at the college level. Now, you have a student who loves the sport and is dynamic, but wants to do some other things in college. And, they want to play a lot of soccer, for example. They want to play a lot of football, they want to swim a lot. Yes, okay, but they really want to have a little bit more going on in college. And they really maybe are highly academic. Well, that's probably not necessarily the way to say it because I don't want to apply to Division I and Division II. Those students are not highly academic. They are. They really have to stay on top of their schedule. But I guess it's a different playing ground. So just do the research there, okay? And we can talk about that later. If you have any questions, I can kind of break that down a little bit more. But we'll go on to the rest of what I want to show you. So the next thing that I wanted to show you was this screenshot of the NCAA Homeschool Toolkit. This is the homeschool toolkit that the student, and particularly you, right, the parent, because we function as the guidance counselor in this task of going through the toolkit is a guidance counselor task, right? But I also say bring your student into it so your student knows what is involved in the task. because it's important, because eventually you're launching them to college where they're going to have to make all kinds of decisions on their own. So bring them into the process. Where do you get this toolkit, you might ask? You go to the NCAA Eligibility Center. You can just do Google NCAA Eligibility Center. It's going to pop up at the top because there isn't another one. And you're going to go to the website and you're going to just download the homeschool toolkit. And you want to follow it. I used to say like your Bible, but I don't want to equate anything with the Bible, at least from my faith vantage point. But almost like the Bible, I should say, you want to follow it because the rules are such that they want what they want, and they want you to provide that information in order to be able to assess your student academically, to be able to declare your student as eligible to do well in college successfully, academically, okay? So Division I and Division II have very similar academic requirements, meaning requirements that the student has to meet in order to be considered eligible at each division level. Now, I'm not going to share Division III academic requirements because they fall under NAIA, and quite honestly, under NAIA, Division III is all about that individual college or university. There are no requirements to play D3. The requirements are literally, what does that school say you need to meet in order to get admitted, to be accepted to college? All right. But Division I and Division II, there are academic requirements. It is a higher level of play. It is a more demanding level of play. Many homeschoolers accomplish this. This is not terribly difficult process to go through, but I just wanted to, let you know the differences there. So as you see on the screen, there's a lot of words here. And like I said, this is an intro kind of presentation, but Division I academic requirements. So you have to earn 16 NCAA approved core courses. So if you're in high school already, meaning you have a student in high school, core courses. So core courses, the core categories or subject categories are going to be English, math, science, or social studies, and foreign language. Those are just, whether it's NCAA or not, that's just high school verbiage that is important to know. So the NCAA says if you have an athlete who wants to become eligible at the Division I, they need to earn 16 of these. And so you see they need to earn 4 Englishes, meaning they need to accomplish and be enrolled and complete successfully 4 English courses during their high school, which most students do. Math has to be Algebra 1 or higher and at least 3. Most students are 3 or 4. So you see, it's not necessarily anything different than what a college-bound student is probably going to have, but it is important that they have it. There's really no leeway otherwise. That's the difference, right? So science, at least 2 sciences, 1 year of lab, and then an additional year of English, math, or science. And then social science is 2 courses. And then they need 4 additional years of English, math, science, social science, world language, or non-doctrinal religion and philosophy. What does that mean? Well, you see the word doctrine in that non-doctrinal. That means that religion or philosophy, but really the religion course, is not a doctrine religion course, meaning it's not Catholicism, it's not converting someone to Baptist. It's not talking about becoming a Methodist, those types of things, doctrine, right? It's really could be like a world religion class. It can be a class that's just talking about religion in general, not doctrinal. So you also have to complete 10 of those 16 before the start of the 7th semester. So you have 2 semesters in a year. So we have freshman, sophomore, junior, right? That's 6 semesters. So before the 7th semester, right, which is 12th grade, the beginning of 12th grade, fall of 12th grade, you have to have completed 10 of all those 16 before that. And at least out of those 10, 7 have to be in English, math, or science, okay? So And then they have a rule that once you start ninth grade, once your student starts ninth grade, the clock begins to tick. So they have to complete the 16 core course credits within the 8 academic semesters, or what we consider 4 consecutive academic high school years. They have a minimum GPA of a 2.3, which is low for most homeschoolers, but then it varies. I'm not necessarily going to generalize like that, but in general, right? But it's the minimum 2.3. And submit that final transcript with proof of graduation to the Eligibility Center. So all of this that I'm covering is going to be in that toolkit. Understand, you see how I talked at the beginning about eligibility and admissions are totally different. You notice the GPA is 2.3. So know that every student that is picked up to play Division I soccer, meaning they get offered an opportunity to play at a particular university for the sport that they love, everyone's not going to be offered a scholarship. So just because you become eligible doesn't mean you get scholarship money. So if you're applying for admission because you have to get admitted to the school you want to play at, then understand 2.3, depending upon the school, is going to be low. It's not likely to get you admitted, and you're going to need additional money because even if you do get offered a scholarship, it's not going to be that much. Now, think about this. You're a college coach. Imagine you are a college coach and you have students who already have been on scholarship who are still playing. They may be sophomores. Well, they would have to be. They would be sophomores, juniors, or seniors. And you've already committed to them and they've been playing well. So they have money. As a coach, you have to make sure you still are going to, fund their scholarship money. So you have a certain amount for those freshmen. And so they allocate it based on a couple of different factors. So you wanna realize that the student really is probably going to need to have a higher GPA. Okay, I hope that is clear. Division II academic requirements, again, NCAA, the 16 are always going to be there, but they change a little bit. Like now it's English is 3 instead of the 4. So you see the difference already. Math is 2 instead of 3. Algebra 1 is always the high school math level. That's always the beginning of high school math. And then science is 2. That was the same. So some of them are the same, but the English and math changes. And then the GPA dropped down just a smidgen, down to 2.2. And of course, the final transcript has to be still submitted, right? So when we're looking at these, we really want to make sure that our student is you and your student are sitting down as early as possible, downloading that homeschool toolkit and looking at the requirements and planning the courses that your student is going to take. They can enroll in dual enrollment. That is allowed. They can take some online classes. They can do classical conversations. They can do co-op. Okay. But you want to strategize what classes are we going to take to meet these requirements to get these done for Division I by what? By the start of 7th semester, which is 12th grade. Now, understand what's happening at that beginning of 12th grade. Well, the student is not only making sure they have all this done, obviously that's going to be a large piece of your task too, as the guidance counselor parent. But the student also is going to be focused on applying to college, and that's still a big chunk of your task as well. And they're going to maybe take some of the standardized tests, and that's going to be a big chunk of your responsibility as well, not to take the test, but to sign them up, find the school that they can take those SAT or ACT tests at. Now, one thing you may have noticed, there's no standardized test requirement. So they got rid of that, which is great, I think, I know years ago when my daughter went through this process, they had a sliding scale. So meaning you know, your SAT, your GPA. So if you had a higher GPA, you could have a lower SAT or ACT score. So, but they completely have gotten rid of that being a requirement. Now, again, what am I saying? And I know I sound like a broken record, but I don't think I can say these type of things too much. Just because the NCAA Eligibility Center isn't requiring the standardized tests in SAT or ACT does not mean that that college or university your student is applying to doesn't require it. Okay? So don't look at this as, oh, this is all we have to follow academically. Even if this matches up with the courses or the requirements that the school has placed upon you for admissions, check into the SAT and ACT requirement and start early. Test familiarity is a thing. It is a thing. It makes a difference how early a student starts preparing for those type of tests. They are often the score in many cases translates to potential merit scholarship. Merit, it means academic scholarship based on how well your student has done in high school, how high their GPA is, how high the SAT or ACT score is. So you want to look at those things as well. So they're not specifically, like I said, they're not part of the NCAA eligibility process, but they are in most cases part of college admissions, and your student you have to jump through both hoops almost at the same time. So the earlier you plan and lay this out, it's not like, oh my gosh, I got to figure this out. Now I'm going to show you something else as well. And so one thing I wanted to talk about before I talk about this transcript that's on the screen is the toolkit defines homeschooling. All right. So I'm not going to go into a lot about the definition. I'm just going to read a few things, but I want you to just recognize what it says, what the toolkit says. It says, generally, if a parent or guardian or tutor creates the curriculum, provides instruction, assesses the coursework, and or awards grades and credit, the student is considered to be a homeschooled student athlete. Learning at home does not necessarily equate to being homeschooled. Because of the tremendous growth of online and virtual education, a student may be able to learn at home through an online school with online teachers, which would not be considered parent guardian directed homeschool. So you want to follow the toolkit. It will talk to you and help you understand what courses will count where. Okay. And so what I wanted to also say, when you are applying for eligibility, there are different levels that you actually can apply for, and I want to cover that a little bit before we get to this transcript that I popped up on the screen. Probably a little bit too early, but it's okay. The NCAA Eligibility Center allows parents to choose from 3 account options to register. So you can choose the one that is right for you. You only need to create 1 account. So whichever one you choose, you can pivot from. This is what I mean. A free profile account is typically what I recommend, because if you have a student, hopefully at 9th grade, you're going through this process, you're downloading the toolkit, then you and the student are going to be looking at it and saying, okay, what do I need to do at this point? What type of classes am I going to take? Is this going to be really what I want to pursue? So just go with the free account, because once you get a little bit past 9th grade, you may have more clarity. Your student is like, oh yeah, I really do want to do this. They could change, right? I mean, so look at it like that to do the free account, but there are a couple of other ones as well. So there's something called an amateurism only certification. It is basically those international college-bound student athletes. Those tend to be the amateurism only. might be a student who is at what we call a JUCO or a junior community college. And they want to transfer and they want to play at the Division I or Division II, which, by the way, that is not an uncommon thing for homeschoolers who say, oh, I want to save some money on college and I want to go to my local community college and get an associate's degree, a 2-year degree, right? But I really want to play at the college level. I'm good if I don't play 4 years at the D1 level, but I do want to play some. So some students will go through that community college, do those 2 years, and then they apply to transfer, and they'll get a transfer spot. That's what I call it. It's not probably the technical term, but they'll get a transfer spot on that team potentially, right? They still have to try out, and the coach still has to choose them. So it's not an automatic, but the amateurism only is a potential option for a student who is in that particular case. The other is an academic and an amateurism certification account. So it combines both, and it's really the account for the college-bound student athlete. Like you might have a student who's like, I definitely want to play college at the Division I and Division II. You've seen the student, and this is what I tell parents: assess your student. Being excellent in your eyes is one thing. Being excellent according to what the coaches are looking for is a totally different thing. That's one point. The second thing is that being excellent on the field, even if a coach says you are, doesn't necessarily mean that you want to play at the Division I or Division II. So like I said at the beginning, have that type of conversation. Be very comfortable having that conversation as a parent. And you're not saying to your student, oh, I don't think you can cut it. I don't think you can make it. But you're also helping them understand what the reality of life is going to be like. And it's a fabulous opportunity. So please don't hear any like, oh, it's doomsday. My daughter loved it. But it was a requirement. It was a high level play, and it was a requirement. So you just kind of want to think about some of those things as well. So that combination account is the one that, for those students who are definitely like on point, I'm ready, let's go. The other thing is take an official visit. Go check that school out, because you want to make sure, again, that broken leg, you want to make sure that the school is one that your student is going to want to be at, right? And when you go take an official visit, make sure you sign in, like, you schedule online with the university for whatever date they offer the tour, and you go and they're going to ask. Now, most times they'll pass around a sign up, sheet that you're there, or they'll check you in at the front. Either way, just make sure you get checked in, because colleges, admissions offices rather, look at, that squeaky wheel, right? Who's really interested, who really wants it, because it's a business. Colleges are a business, right? You may not have thought about it like that, or maybe you realize that. Maybe that's why you're like, oh man, college debt is a thing, because it is. So they're in the business of making money, and they also have a lot of expenses that require them to charge. And so make sure it's a place that you visited as much as if you're able. Now, you may not be, but go on the website. College admissions websites are incredible now compared to years ago, where students had to wait to get the brochures in the mail and look through it. And it was like, oh, you couldn't get that feel. But the admissions websites now are really awesome. So if you can't go in person, make sure you and your student do due diligence in canvassing these college websites. Also, part of this process is if you get offered a slot, a scholarship slot, or a spot on a team, which will come from the coach. It won't come from the NCAA, because remember, they only clear you academically. So you got a couple of factors you're looking at. You got NCAA eligibility, you got college admissions, and the coach. 3 people you got to pass go, right? 3 people have to let you go through in order for your athlete to get where they want to get, which is to be an athlete playing in college at the Division I, II, or even 3 level, like we talked about. So part of that process is maybe looking at going to college-bound athletic camps in the summer between, your high school years. Check out different universities that have the sport that your student wants to play. If your student plays multi-sport, I don't think they can't play both. I don't think at the Division I level, I don't think that they can, but I might be wrong. So we need to check with that. But either way, because some of them cross seasons, right? So, but you definitely want to, make sure that that if they get offered a slot, then they're going to have to sign what's called a national letter of intent. And there's a day, it's called National Signing Day, and it's when athletes, are signing their letter of intent. People turn into a big ceremony. Your high school coach that has been there alongside, or and for homeschoolers, some states you may be able to play at the high school, right? And other states don't allow that. So there's that piece. So you may have your what I call your travel, a sport coach, right? Because you may be paying for that high level competitive play during high school so that they can be scoutable, right? The coaches will scout them out. So either way, people turn this into a ceremony, the National Signing Day. So look into that as well. Now, if you decide that your student, and you can see your student is really ready to roll for college and playing at the Division I and Division II, then like I said, look at that combination academic and amateurism certification account, and it's $100 and it's one-time fee. All right. So just wanted to talk about that a little bit. Now, let's talk here at this transcript example that's been up here on the screen for a bit. So there was a point when NCAA had a particular template that you had to use. All right. This template here is not required. They just give it so parents who aren't sure, like, what's a transcript, what should be on it, they just give this template. You don't have to use this exact one. But if you're new to the high school scene, if you're new to transcripts, this is very helpful. Gisela mentioned in my bio, I do work for Homeschool Legal Defense Association. This presentation is not a HSLDA presentation. I'm here as Natalie Mack, LLC, but because I believe in HSLDA's mission, I'm going to always promote them regardless. And so what I'm saying in reference to transcripts is that we have excellent content on helping you create your high school transcript. Some of our other educational specialists just did an incredible transcript series that is available for members if you're a member or become a member. Also, we have a transcript service that even non-members can go to our hslda.org website, go to the store option in the top right, and you can go and find the transcript service, pay the fee, minimal fee, and then use the transcript service to create your transcript. So that's just a little bit of tips on how you can do this. So you see how this transcript looks, the student information and the school information, all of that has to be included, because obviously the transcript has to talk about your student. It is all about your student, but you are the school. So they need to know how to contact you for official school business and how to contact the student for official student business. All right. And so the academic record here, I recommend doing an annual or what we call a yearly transcript. There are subject transcripts, and that's basically where we take those core course categories like English, math, science, social science, and foreign language. You put them into categories, and you put all the classes you've done in those categories in a row. So that's a subject transcript, but for this process, I recommend the yearly transcript. And if you have, if you don't have access again, then I gave you some ways to actually get help with creating a transcript. And again, the dual enrollment, if your student is doing dual enrollment, then that definitely counts, and all of that can be put on here, including, you see, the courses starting with 9th grade, right? And the year, the grade, the credit, I recommend keeping things fairly lined up pretty well, meaning create a pattern for whatever subject, whatever core course begins first, second, third, kind of keep that pattern through 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th. It's easy to read for an admissions committee because that's important. You want to create one transcript, right? So you don't have several versions of your transcript floating around. So what does that mean? That means NCAA is going to have theirs, and then the colleges or Common App or wherever you submit it, they're going to have the same transcript submitted a different place. And so it needs to be the same, right? And you can put your dual enrollment, your grading scale, like I said, and your academic summary. So all of that's important to have on there. So we'll finally move past this transcript that's been up here for a while. Core course worksheet. What in the world is this? So this is why it's super important. The earlier you know in high school that your student even has an inkling, a discussion, a likelihood, a surety, whichever it fits, that they're going to play college or they want to go through that process, and you're going to be knocking on the NCAA Eligibility Center door, then you want to fill out these core course worksheets. We call them CCW for short. This again is included in the Eligibility Center Homeschool Toolkit. This is just a screenshot to tell you a little bit about to be prepared. So what in the world is this, you may ask? Okay, so for those 16 core courses, for each one, you need to fill out a core course worksheet. So we have this page and we have the second part, okay? That page, and then we have the second. So let's look at the first one, just so you know, it's 2 pages. And I also should tell you that these are for, there are 2 different categories of courses that NCAA looks at for homeschoolers. Traditional homeschool type courses, I call them mommy courses, classical conversations, co-op, and then non-traditional tends to be some of the online courses. So you're going to be filling out a core course worksheet for those mommy CC type co-op classes. And then there's another worksheet pretty similar to this. It's a non-traditional core course worksheet you're going to fill out for the non-traditional. Okay, so think about this. You have a student that is saying, I want to play, and they've been saying since 9th grade, and you wait till 11th grade to fill out a core course worksheet for all of those courses. Wow. Right? Maybe you just realized, maybe your student just said, I want to play in college. That's a different story. You didn't know. But if you know, or they're talking about it, or there's a possibility, I recommend you fill these things out because it's a lot to fill out at the last moment, and you can see what they ask for. So you put your course name. Of course, at that point, you'll have your NCAA ID because you get that when you sign up for one of those 3 accounts I mentioned. You are going to choose the core course subject area that it goes in. You're going to talk about who the teacher was. Maybe there was a co-op teacher, prerequisites, if any, that had to be done before they accomplished this class. What texts were used, college preparatory texts that were used, even if they were just used as a like a spine, right? Like, you know what I mean? You maybe didn't use them a whole lot, but they were part of your text for that particular course. They go there, everything goes there. And oh, sorry, I went too fast, sorry. And then, and then your core course description, right? So a lot of times if you're using a curriculum, most curriculums, they give you the description, and it's public knowledge, it's public information. They give it to you for you to use as a homeschool parent. So copy and paste it, right? If it's a course that you created or a co-op, then, you do the course description, right? And then the next side of this is our, the content, the goals, what the objectives were for the class. How did you assess? Were they quizzes? Were they tests? Did they have to do projects? Who decided that? How were the assessments designed, graded? those type of things, grade achieved, what was the credit that they got. Now, if your student takes a dual enrollment class, you don't do one for this. So any dual enrollment classes do not need a core course worksheet. They do need the transcript to be sent from the community college, right? Or the online dual enrollment program has to send the transcript directly to NCAA Eligibility Center, not to you, okay? So just so you know, that's a little bit there. I'm going to go ahead and talk a little bit as we come to a close. And by the way, the non-traditional core course worksheet looks pretty similar. Like I said, it's also in the toolkit. The one thing I also am thinking to mention, you will ideally, year by year, so say you know about this in 8th grade, your students start to play in 9th, or you find out in 9th that they want to play, whenever it is, at the end of that academic high school year, you're submitting those core course worksheets, right? You've already gotten an account. That's the first thing you do no matter what. Just get the account. You get an NCAA ID for your student. But then every year you're doing those CCWs, right? Except for the dual enrollment classes. And you are updating your transcript, right? Those are things you have to do. So, but it doesn't necessarily get you, and you submit it to NCAA Eligibility Center. It doesn't mean that they are going to take a look at any of that submission and give you feedback until something happens. What is that? There's something that's called an IRL, Institutional Request List. I think I have that right. So what is that? Basically, a coach who is interested in your student potentially playing at their university on their team, contacts NCAA Eligibility Center and asks for them to put your student on the IRL. Until that happens, your paperwork sits at the NCAA Eligibility Center. It's going to be probably digital. It's going to sit there and it's kept for your student, but they have to get on the IRL. So know that you may not hear back because your student maybe is a freshman, right? But submit the paperwork. If you need help, there's plenty of resources out there. There's Facebook groups that that exist. So that's where I'll show you my QR. You can definitely reach out to me and I can help you on that process with a little bit more clarity. So finally, lessons learned as we come to a close. Follow the path. There is a path to play at the college level. There is a path to play. And if your student wants to play professionally, meaning after college or post-college, there's a path. And so look at universities and determine if you have a student who says, I'm going to want to play pro, then maybe you want to look at the universities that have somewhat of a proven track that their athletes get to play pro. Every Division I and Division II is not created equally. It's just not. So determine where you want to go next, right? Help your student. And a freshman may not know, but this is jot this down as a conversation to have when you get closer to figuring out where, and how the student can know a little bit more about where they might feel good as a student, not just only as an athlete, but as a student. How can they find that out? By going to those college-bound camps. They get in front of the coaches, the assistant coaches, some of the team. They get to stay a week on campus, right? They get to check out the dining facility, which, isn't maybe the be-all, end-all for college selection, but it's pretty high, right? Nobody wants to be at a school where the food is terrible, but, you can survive, you'll eat. But, you still, it's all the parts of the things that make the experience comfortable as well. So follow the path, adhere to that toolkit. Like I said, almost like if you're, if you are looking at the Bible and you're following that as an example, there's other examples I could use too. Just follow it, adhere to the toolkit. And you may have to pay for the exposure and training, because I know from state to state, homeschoolers, have varying opportunities to play at a high school. And not all scouts are picking up high school athletes at a high school game. They're not all scouting them there. They're scouting them in some of these travel clubs, these competitive, external to a high school opportunity, right? So sometimes we have to pay for the exposure and the training. And if you have an athlete who's playing in a homeschool soccer, or homeschool sports league, soccer, I see the ball here, my daughter plays soccer, but a homeschool sports league, make sure they're getting the high level of competition that they need. I'm not saying that they can't. I'm not saying that homeschool leagues don't have high competition levels. Make sure that the one you're part of does, because the student has to be able to really play well to get the opportunity to get a scholarship. Realizing that, again, what did I say? You probably will be looking at a need to get merit money as well to merge them together. And that's a conversation you want to check with the school about how they merge the money as well, right? Okay, so I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Our daughter played for Liberty University. She was that's a Division I school. She did go to a few college-bound soccer camps and weeded out places. And we were over in Naples, Italy at the time, living over there. And we came back for a summer, and she went to Liberty University's college-bound soccer camp and loved it. And the coach loved her, and she got offered an opportunity. So, and this was post 11th grade, summer after 11th grade, before fall of 12th grade. So the opportunities are out there. So if I can say anything, is please don't think that you've been homeschooling well. Homeschooling is fitting your family. It's what you feel called to do. And you have an athlete and you think that you need to pivot back to public school. In most cases, you don't. You just need to set up a plan, and you need to know the process. So I am going to pull up my QR. This is my QR. So again, please feel free to reach out to me. I do help families on other journeys, not just NCAA. But if you have questions specifically about NCAA, definitely feel free to reach out to me. And I think that this is it. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing and take questions.
Thank you so much for that, for the talk about everything. That's something I'm going through with my 13-year-old, who is asking if she's going to be missing out if she continues to be homeschooled in high school. But the college-bound camps, that's a good idea as well. And it gives me a little bit of time knowing that your daughter was in 11th grade when she started.
Yes,
I mean, she was
exactly.
playing sports prior to that, though.
Yes, yes. So I always encourage families, like I said a couple of times, is the earlier you know, go ahead and get that account established and go ahead and start creating those core course worksheets, because that's a lot to pull together at the end. And so we had started that process in the spring of her junior year. And so by the time the summer came around and she went to camp, we had our documentation, and she was eligible. She was, meaning when I say eligible, she had been given her clearance and everything. So it really just depends. But yeah, so hopefully it helps. Hopefully this has been helpful.
Does anybody have any questions for Miss Mack? I do wanna, I put the link. Well, thank you for sharing a wealth of knowledge. Somebody said some people I know that are here that they're doing something else and are having their mics off.
Oh yeah, no worries.
I'm going to post again in the chat her YouTube talk. I highly encourage everybody to watch it.
Thank you.
And
Please.
yeah. Okay, and then we all have your QR code. That's a link to her link tree with all of everything. It has for military home a link to any events, your website, your talk as
Yeah.
well. Okay,
Yes, a little bit of everything.
thank you.
So, yes, I appreciate you. I thank you so very, very much for inviting me. And again, I wish you all the best. I do need to depart. My husband is waiting for us to get on the road to New Jersey. So I hope that that is okay. But it looks like it's been a great conference. And thank you, Gisela. You're incredible. You offer so much to with passion and love. So I appreciate you.
Thank you. Same here, Natalie. We'll be in touch.
Okay, all right. Bye-bye, everyone.
Okay, we're running a little behind before we get to our next talk though. I'm gonna have my Sajani for 2 minutes if you don't mind. We're Latinos Homeschooling is again going to launch the